You're lying in bed, and you hear it. It sounds like someone crying. Distant. Hollow. Like it's been carried through the night. You stop. Frozen. And then it changes. The sound twists into something sharper, louder. Almost human. Almost. It rises, breaks, and echoes in a way that makes your chest tighten before you even understand why. But somewhere, deep down, you understand. That sound, the crying, the wailing. Someone is going to die. If you too are going to die, check out Pantheon, our brand inspired by myths, legends, and folklore. We ship worldwide and rated excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description. Well, that's not the best night's sleep I've ever had. Anyway, mythology. In 1893, in County Mayo, Ireland, Bridget O'Connor woke in the middle of the night to the sound of crying outside her home. It was distant at first, as if it were coming from somewhere down the road. But it didn't stay there. It moved, slowly, toward the house, stopping and starting as if whoever was making the sound was pacing just beyond the walls. She listened for several minutes before waking the rest of the household. But by the time the others came, the sound had already begun to fade. By morning, word arrived that a relative had died in the night. In 1878, in County Kerry, also Ireland, a similar account appears, but this time with multiple witnesses. A woman was woken by a wail so sharp it cut through the house, loud enough to bring others out of their rooms. Unnatural in its consistency, rising and falling without breaking, continuing for several minutes before abruptly stopping. The sound was heard moving along the outside wall, close enough to follow, but never close enough to see. The next day, the news arrived that a member of the family had died unexpectedly. In older accounts, particularly those passed down within the same families, it repeats across generations. The same sound, described in near identical terms, heard at different points in time by different members of the same lineage. In some cases, it's never seen, only heard. In others, there are brief glimpses, a figure at a distance, near a boundary, or close to water, but never close enough to fully identify. The details change. The outcome does not. The Banshee, the harbinger of death, the wailing woman. She has many names, and her presence sits within a much older layer of Irish belief, one that begins with the land and the idea that certain places weren't empty to begin with. Across Ireland, people believed that ancient burial mounds, hills, and earthen structures were occupied by something that continued alongside human life, unseen but present. These places became tied to what would later be called the Ishi, a supernatural race connected to the land, to memory, and to something older that never fully disappeared. So, essentially, she falls into the category of the Fae, or fairy, just not the kind you'd want anywhere near your house. This idea shows up in early Irish myth, particularly in texts like the Le Borga Bala Eren, where the Tuatha Danann, a powerful otherworldly people, withdraw beneath the earth after their defeat. Their presence continues, just out of sight. The Banshee comes from that same world. She's not a ghost, nor is she the spirit of someone who's died. She belongs to that older presence, something connected to the land and to a sense of continuity that stretches beyond a single lifetime. Her connection to death becomes clearer when placed alongside the practice of keening, where women would wail over the dead in a way that was expected and recognised, a sound people understood as part of death, a sound mirrored by the Banshee. According to legend, she is tied to specific Gallic families, especially those with long ancestral lines bound to a name, to blood, to something that continued across generations rather than appearing at random. Descriptions vary. Sometimes she appears as a young woman, sometimes as an older figure worn down by grief. In some accounts, she's seen near water, washing clothing. In others, she's never seen at all, only heard. There isn't a single form that defines her, but she's always there, waiting to fulfill her duty. The sound is what defines her. The queen the traditional funeral lament, but stripped of its human exhaustion. Where our voices eventually falter and strain for air, the wail of the Banshee maintains an unnatural, sustained consistency. It rises and falls for minutes at a time, bypassing the biological limits of her throat and lungs. She is a sound characterized by a total absence of fatigue. This sound occupies the architecture of the house. It vibrates through the window pane and travels along the exterior walls of a bedroom, close enough that the glass feels the pressure. Yet, the yard remains empty. The grass stays still. The air is motionless. The frequency of that wail is hollow, a tone devoid of emotions like anger or malice. It's a vocalization of a fact already recorded in the other world. It is the sound of a clock striking a final hour. It is the sound of a door closing, heard by the living before the lock has even turned. It appears specifically at the boundaries, at the windows, at the doors, or the threshold of a property. Those who hear it wake up to a sound that is directed, fixed, and certain. And then it ends. The message has been delivered. There's a common misunderstanding that the Banshee is a predator. She hunts, she eliminates, but in reality, her role is much more distant. She doesn't kill. She doesn't carry malice or an intent to hunt. She's a harbinger. The horror comes from the fact that she arrives before the death itself, present at a moment that has already begun to unfold. Within the belief surrounding Ishi, the event is already set in motion. What follows simply catches up to it. Because she's not a threat. There's nothing to fight. You can lock the doors, stay in the light, try to ignore it, but none of it changes anything. She offers no warning you can act on. The scream is an announcement. If she were a killer, there would be a way out, something to escape, something to survive. But this offers no such possibility. The sound comes, and with it, the understanding that the moment for action has already passed. You aren't being hunted. You're being told. The Banshee is terrifying because she forces you into the silence that follows her. When the wail stops, it leaves a vacuum. Most fear pushes you to do something, but here there's nothing to do but wait. We deal with danger through action. If something's wrong, we respond. We carry the belief that something can still be changed. The Banshee removes that entirely. We sit in a room with someone we love, looking at a living, breathing person, while carrying the certainty that the wheels are still in motion. We are forced to mourn a ghost that hasn't stopped breathing yet. Our eyes show one reality, but our mind holds another. Every moment stretches because it carries weight now. Every second feels like it matters more than it should, because it might be one of the last. Time continues, but it doesn't move forward in the same way. It holds us there, between the sound and what follows, suspended in a space where the ending exists but hasn't arrived yet. Inevitability. Death is coming. It's already moving, already fixed, already beyond your reach. The Banshee arrives alongside it, at the point where it can no longer be turned. If there were a way out, we would take it. If there was something to fight, we'd fight it. If there were even the smallest chance to change what's coming, we'd hold on to it. But there isn't. The scream isn't for them. It's for us.